Hi everyone! Thank you for joining me in this tutorial for how to get the most out of chill subs. Now I imagine that you're here because a few things are true. One, you're a writer of some sort, whether that's a poet, a fiction writer, an essayist, novelist, or some hybrid mashup of those categories. Two, not only are you a writer, but you're a writer looking to publish your work, which means that your urge to put your work out into the world is greater than your fear of putting your work out into the world. This is so important to acknowledge because it can be a big step, scary for some people, overwhelming for others, and I applaud you for being brave and using your voice. Your voice is unique unto you and is the most important tool you have, so congratulations for using it. And three, you want some level of support and community to make the submission process a little bit less complicated, a little bit less lonely, and to feel a lot more in control of your options. So thank you for being here. I hope this tutorial helps you learn about the wide range of features that Chill Subs has to offer to demystify the submission process and make tracking your submissions more rewarding and less arduous. So let's get started. First, you'll need to sign up for a Chill Subs account and then log into it. Now in this tutorial, I'll be going over both the paid and the free features, and the free features are plentiful. So if a paid subscription isn't right for you at this time, there are lots and lots of things here that are absolutely free to use. We're going to go over the profile feature, the browse features, the submission tracker, bookmarks, lists, events, and then the sandbox, which can be found here. And I will go over in just a couple minutes. So first things first, let's make a profile. So you're going to click this button and edit. Now I already have a profile, but this is what you would do to make one. You can add a photo, you can add some information about yourself, where you are, a bio, some contact information, an email address, your socials, your personal website, which can all be found here. And next you can add your publications. So if you've published a book, you can add that here, and I'll show you how to do that. You click the add button. Now let's say you published a book called Small Animals with Gray Wolf, which is one word. And you can click that here, publish it in 2025. Let's say that was a poetry collection. I'm gonna leave that off because it's a full collection. And let's say it's literary. Now you can click save and it will add it to your profile right here. Now I'm going to get rid of that since it's not a real book. And next we're going to add some publications. So you can click add and copy and paste a link of a prose piece or a poem that you published with a journal, and it will auto-populate some of the cells and others you'll have to fill out yourself. So the year, the publisher, the genre, and you do that for each link and it'll add each one to your profile. Now the reason this is useful is twofold. One, it can be a lot of work to make a website. It can be expensive to buy a domain. It can take time to maintain it. Sometimes, depending on the platform, you need to know a little bit of code. Not everybody has the resources to make a personal website. So this is a great place to have all of your publications in one place where people can find and read your work. Now, another reason why this is useful is you can leave this toggled on every time that you add a published piece to your profile, and it will automatically link it to the journal's listing with Chill Subs. And so as people are browsing journals and exploring the card for each one, they can click on read to read some work that has been published in that journal to get a feel for it, and your piece will be one of the things that comes up. So very cool feature. Next, you can add other projects that you're a part of. So let's say you have a YouTube channel that you want to direct people to, or maybe you publish a blog regularly. Maybe you sell merch and it is writerly or specific to writing and you want to direct people there. You can add all of that here. And then next you have some fun badges. These get added to your profile automatically after you do a certain number of tasks or different categories with chill subs. And it can just be really fun. So you can get a badge for tracking more than 100 submissions. You can get a badge for publishing more than 50 things. And you can get a badge for playing rejection bingo, which I'll show you once we get to the submission tracker. Cool. So now you have a profile. So let's start browsing for some journals. Now, there are a number of ways that you can use this. We have the standard browse feature, and then we have the smart search, which is for paid members. So let's talk about the regular search features. First, once you go to browse, it'll give you a list of a lot of different journals, over 4,000 actually. So you probably want to narrow it down to make it a little bit less overwhelming. So you can click on filters and select by genre. So let's say you have a nonfiction piece that you'd like to publish. That's about 2,000 words. And it's a short story. Actually, no, let's make it a personal essay. So now you get 214 magazines that you can submit to. Next, you can click on Essentials, and you can select just the ones that are currently open for submissions right now. Now that narrows it down by about half. And let's say your budget would like you to submit to places that don't charge a fee. So now you have 90. Now you can also submit based on vibe. So the way that this works is the first one is journals that accept less than 3% of pieces but take longer than 6 months to respond. The next one is also less than 3% acceptance rate but takes less than 6 months to respond. This one is what we call the sweet spot, which is a 3 to 8% acceptance rate. This one is an 8 to 20% acceptance rate. And this one is 20 to 50% acceptance rate. Get them while they're hot. These are presses that have been founded less than a year ago, so they're new. Just Added Go Say Hi is not necessarily a just founded press, but is newly listed with chill subs less than 6 months ago. We're Just Chillin' here is journals that accept anywhere from 50 to 100% of their submissions. And Weird Outsider, what the fuck even is that? That's an editor selected designation. So this is a self-designated category. And then the last one, Fuck Around and Find Out, means we don't really know what their vibe is. Less than 20 track submissions have been posted to chill subs, and we just don't have the data. And so you can take a gamble with those. Now let's say you want to narrow it down even further. You can narrow it down by different eligibility requirements, or you can narrow it down by places that accept previously published work or that nominate for prizes, or by country. So I'm going to click Show 90 Magazines, and now it's going to give me that narrowed down list. So here, there are a couple of things that you can do. Let's say I've decided that Silly Goose Press is just not for me, and I don't want them to keep showing up. I can click Hide this listing, and it'll go away. Let's say I really like this Solar Punk magazine, and I want to bookmark it. When you bookmark it, you get a couple different options. So you can save it as just a favorite. You can save it by category, so places you might want to submit essays to, or you can save it based on the title of a piece and bookmark all the journals that that piece might be a good fit for, and then later you can come back and submit to all of those. So I'm going to say I have this poem called Warbirds, and I'm going to go ahead and bookmark it. Great. Now, let's say I decided actually that piece that I that I hid. That piece that I hid, I changed my mind and I do want to submit there. So you can click on hidden and you can unhide those. Or I can also just look at my bookmarked pieces and just look at a page of all the ones that I've saved without all the other 90. Now, I can go back and decide this is actually too narrow of a search. I would like to widen it. The way the filter function works is every time you filter down a category, it creates a tag. And that's useful because you can just X out of it. So maybe I have a couple different essays that I want to submit at the same time. So I'm going to get rid of 2,000 words because they're different lengths. Now my search gets widened to 189 magazines while all the other filter categories are still in place. So I'm going to click on Fufura and we'll talk a little bit about each journal's card. So every journal that is listed with us has a number of different things that you can find out about it before you submit. So here's an overview. We've added a feature where people can recommend a magazine or not. You can rate a journal, and that helps other people know whether or not they want to submit to the same journal and work with them. You can see what kind of calls they have available. You can see what type of work they published, what their vibe is, what their response time is, whether or not they take reprints, whether or not they pay, how much it costs to submit to them, their acceptance rate, whether they nominate for prizes, and then just some information about them. You can also click on their masthead, which is super useful. So you don't have to click around that particular journal's website to find out who you should address your cover letter to. So in this case, we can make a note that that's Kevin. However, if you are using if you're a paid member and using our sandbox, there's a cover letter generator that will find all this for you and put it in the cover letter, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So here we can look at different calls, open submission calls that they currently have, and the guidelines for submitting to this journal, what type of work they accept, whether or not they accept simultaneous submissions, what their post-acceptance process looks like, so which rights you are giving them when they publish your work, what kind of awards they nominate for, and then what types of things they want in their cover letter. And then here you've got some stats, percentage of submissions that they accept versus reject, and how long they take. This one takes anywhere from 0 to 30 days, so that's pretty quick, pretty fast. And then here's that feature that I told you about, where you can read the work of people who posted links to their publications in their profiles that have been published in this particular journal. So that's a pretty cool feature. And then we have some insights. So if any editors completed an interview to tell people a little bit about what they're looking for, you can find that information here. Okay, so that is the browse feature. Now we have also the smart search feature. So if you're a paid subscriber, you can use this a different way. You can make up your own filter tags and just type them in. So let's say I want speculative fiction. I'm going to narrow it down. And let's say I want a Canadian publication. You can add a tag, and now I've got 39 journals that I can submit to, and it's faster than going through the menu. The other thing that you can use this for is just by looking up a journal. So we're going to look up only poems, and it'll take you right there. So that's a pretty easy way to get to a journal if you know you want to submit there and you want to get all the information for how to do that. So that's the browse feature. So now you've created a profile. You've browsed some journals, maybe bookmarked some to submit different pieces to. Say you've selected some pieces and now you want to make those submissions. So if you're a paid subscriber, you can go to the sandbox feature, and there's a couple of different tools here. First, you can make a passport card. So here you can save some info blocks, for example, your contact information and different bios that can then be copied and pasted into cover letters. So if you submit different types of work, different genres, you probably have more than one bio, and you can create those and store them here. So that's pretty handy. So that's your passport. Now, once you've done that and you're submitting to a journal, you can go to the cover letter generator. And let's go with only poems again. So let's say I have some poems I'd like to submit, and I would like to use bio number 1. And here it generates automatically a pretty standard cover letter, which you can then personalize. The neat thing about this tool is it has all the submission guidelines right here. So we know from reading this that they do not want you to include your contact info, that they like to read blind, but they would like a bio to go with your cover letter. So we can add that this is a simultaneous submission. We can leave off the contact info, and then we can personalize it. So let's say I'm going to be submitting a poem called Tender Footsteps. And I'm going to choose who I'm going to address the cover letter to, in this case, Karan, the editor-in-chief. So we're going to click that. I'm going to select poetry. And I would like to add a personal note. Thank you for considering my poem. I look forward to hearing from you. And it gives the name of the poem, it personalizes the cover letter, adds my little note and my bio, and now I'm ready to hit copy and paste it right into Submittable. Super easy. Now let's say I want to submit a prose piece. There's this tool here called the Prose Formatter that you can open, and it will format your piece for you according to industry best standards, which is the Shun manuscript format. That's SHUNN. So if you don't know the format guidelines for a particular journal, then that is usually a safe default to use. So here I have my contact information, and I'm going to go to this essay that I wrote, and I'm going to copy it and paste it into this prose formatter. So here's the piece. I can add the title, and there's my name, and I can add my last name here, and that's for the heading, and click generate. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a Word document. I'm going to move this. It's going to create a Word document that will be formatted and ready to submit. So it's going to give me a word count. It's going to put my contact information at the top, and then it's going to create a header with my name and the title, and it's going to paginate it. And then you can save it and paste it right into Submittable or into an email if that's how they accept submissions, along with that cover letter. So super easy. Really handy tool. So now that we've formatted and made our submission, it's a good idea to track it. And you can go to the submission tracker and you can use this a couple of different ways. There's a table and there's a board. So let's go to the table. Oh, and actually I messed with these, so I'm going to put that back as in progress. Okay, so I imported these from Submittable. You can import from a number of different places. You cannot import this information from Duotrope. And that's what this little thing that pops up is going to tell you. However, you can import from an Excel spreadsheet, from Submission Grinder, or directly from Submittable, and it's going to give you this list. So you'll see what's in progress, what's been rejected, that's okay, that happens, and what's been accepted. And a couple different things. Sometimes you have to help it out a little bit. So you'll see a little red exclamation point. That usually happens when it's not for a literary journal. It's for, let's say, it's a manuscript for a book contest. That's when you end up sometimes having to go in and tell them who the publisher is and that it's a manuscript and not a magazine. But all of the other information populates automatically, and it's much faster than using a spreadsheet, which is what I used before I found Submittable and before I found Chill Subs, excuse me. And now it's a lot faster to track this stuff. So now we've imported from Submittable. You click that, and you first have to go to Submittable and export your data, and then you can import it here. Okay, now I'm going to X out of this. If you don't know how to export your data from Submittable, you can click on How, and it will give you a how-to guide, which is a really useful document so that you can get your data. Now, the cool thing about Chill Subs is all the data that you import, you own, and you can use however you like. So now let's look at the board. This is another way that you can use it instead of a table, which not everybody likes the spreadsheet format. If you're a little bit more visual, then you have these columns. And here it's really easy to just drag and drop pieces that you've gotten a response to. So let's say this piece that was pending with River Heron Review got accepted. Yay! We're going to move it over here. And it gives you a little high five, which is always fun. And now it's in the accepted column. Now let's say this piece from Crab Orchard Review got rejected. I can move it here. And it gives you a little pat on the back anyway. So the fun thing is you can play rejection bingo when you get rejections. It's not always fun to get rejections, although I will say that the more places you submit to, the more you increase your chances of getting an acceptance. So it's definitely a numbers game sometimes, and those rejections start to hurt a lot less the more of them that you get. And of course, once you get personal rejections, that can almost feel as good as an acceptance sometimes, and you can celebrate those. Another way to make rejections hurt less is to set goals. There are some people who give themselves a rejection cake. Once they get over 100 rejections in a year, they celebrate and they get a cake. Another fun way to do, another fun way to celebrate rejections, because it's still something worth celebrating. You're getting your work out there, and every rejection you get, you are closer to finding a home for your piece by narrowing it down, is by playing rejection bingo. So here you get some pretty standard rejections. Once you get a number of these, you're going to recognize the same language over and over again, and you can turn that into a bingo card. So let's say, unfortunately, is the way that the email started. I can click on this, and then I can save it, and I can play rejection bingo every time that a response comes in. So that is the submission tracker. Super easy to use, a lot faster than a spreadsheet, and a good place, a good way to keep track of what you've submitted where. It's a good idea to track your submissions, especially if you submit simultaneously. If you send the same piece to 20 different journals, it can be really hard to remember where you sent it once it gets accepted somewhere so that you can withdraw it from consideration at all the other journals. So you definitely want to make sure you're tracking it somehow. So that is the submission tracker. We've talked about bookmarks. Now let's talk about lists. There are some lists that are for free subscribers and some lists that are for paid subscribers. And it'll tell you here, better subscription is a paid subscription. The ones that are blank are free. And the lists can be really helpful if you have certain goals. So for example, here's a list of the 1% Club. So you can click here, and these are all the journals that are really hard to get into, and you can just go down the line and submit to every single one of these without having to go through the browse feature and do all the filtering. You have it right there. And then these get pretty specific. 140 lit mags that are vibing so hard it'll make your teeth hurt. 19 kick-ass African literary magazines. Lit mags who pay dumb money for poetry, which is not all that easy to find. So somebody did the work for you, and you can just click on those lists and use them for to tailor your submission strategy. And so those are community favorites. Then we have stats backed. We love statistics at Chill Sub, so you'll find us creating lots of lists based on them. So most competitive literary magazines of all time. We've looked at tracked submissions and have found some are incredibly hard to get into and made a list out of all of those. So if you like a challenge, you can submit to those places. And then there's the awards catalog. So lit mags that nominate for the pushcart, lit mags that nominate for best of the net. Here's lit mags that nominate for best microfiction, for best American essays, for the Hugo Awards if you write science fiction, Nebula Awards. So if your goal is to win an award, you can prioritize by submitting to journals that nominate. So then we have events. And you probably, if you're a Chill Subs member, you're familiar with our events. We have lots of events every single month. Some are free for anybody, and others are $25 for people who don't have a subscription. And then Chill Subs paid subscribers get to go to all of the events for free. So really good reason to get a subscription that's paid. And we have AMAs, which is Ask Me Anything. The wonderful Elise Powers will be doing one next. And then once a month, on the first Tuesday of every month, Andrea Firth hosts a submission clinic where you can show up and for an hour and a half get together with other writers to submit your work so that you're not just doing it alone. It can be really motivating for people. And you can also ask questions about submissions, especially if you're new to it. So those are events. And then we have our blog. So you can find blog posts here there are some that are just for editors. You can click on that. So 7 prizes lit mags should submit to. And then there are some that are just for writers. 24 new lit mags added to our database, or when the most submission calls are actually open. So September is one of those months. And then here's some for everybody. Here's a piece with Neil Clark of Clark's World talking about the difference between genre mags and literary mags. And then we have some announcements. So please use these features. If you're a Chill Subs member, there's lots of things here that were created with so much love so that the submission process is as pain-free and as uncomplicated as possible, because it's time-consuming to submit your work, and it takes a lot of guts to get it out there. And we want you to be successful in your writing careers and meeting your writing goals. So if you have any questions, please feel free to message us. We are happy to do live tutorials if it's helpful to you for how to use chill subs. So many tools are at your fingertips, and I'm so glad that you joined me on this tutorial for how to get the most out of chill subs, and I wish you so much luck submitting your work. Thank you. Bye.